Hi, welcome beautiful Americans. How are you?
The boss who wasted $1,000 to save 87 cents. Have you ever had a boss who was so utterly incompetent and so disgustingly cheap that they actually cost the company a fortune trying to save pennies? My manager, a woman earning over $250,000, organized a department lunch, spent hours planning it, and then, after all that effort, she had the nerve to invoice every single one of us for 87 cents. Her biggest mistake wasn't stealing the company's time. It was underestimating the power of a $10 bill. If you've ever felt the soul-crushing sting of corporate pettiness, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story about how one employee delivered the most perfectly passive-aggressive payment in company history. My name is Luna, and I once worked in a department run by a manager I'll call Karen. Now, I'm not using the term lightly here. Karen was the dictionary definition of someone who succeeded entirely through nepotism. She got the marketing manager job because the head of marketing was a fan of her husband's performance, not hers. Karen had zero skills for the job. She couldn't strategize, she couldn't delegate effectively, and she certainly couldn't manage a budget. She was just there. An obstacle who collected an obscene paycheck, somewhere north of $250,000 when you factored in her husband's high salary and adjusted for the time. This massive salary made her incompetence and, more importantly, her penny-pinching greed feel like a personal insult to every employee actually doing the work. The department was chronically undervalued and overworked, running on the fumes of effort while she coasted. My core frustration, and the team's, was the feeling of underestimation. Karen saw us as a necessary annoyance, not as people whose time and effort had real monetary value. The summer intern that year was the president's son. Naturally, this required a huge, grand gesture from Karen to prove her managerial prowess. She decided a farewell lunch was the perfect move. What should have been a spontaneous, casual outing became a bureaucratic nightmare. The lunch itself was at a simple national burger chain, nothing fancy. But the planning was legendary. First, Karen sent 2 separate emails to the entire department about the lunch, announcing it, confirming attendees, and outlining the logistics. Then, the lunch was listed as an agenda item for not 1, but 2 consecutive weekly department meetings. We spent valuable high-salary time discussing whether we wanted burgers or chicken strips for lunch. The whole thing felt like a performance. A calculated effort to look like a fun boss for the president's son, but it came at the expense of our actual productivity. The tension wasn't just frustration. It was the sickening realization that she valued looking good more than she valued our time. We went to the lunch. It was fine. Bland, forgettable, and awkward. Everyone paid for their own meal, which, considering the occasion and the presence of the president's son, was already absurd. A good manager would have expensed the whole thing as a team-building exercise. A nice manager would have just sprung for it out of her $250,000 pocket. But the true moment of infuriating revelation came after the lunch. The very next week, the lunch became an agenda item again. Everyone braced for some kind of post-mortem feedback session. Instead, Karen asked the department for payment. Specifically, she requested that every employee pay 87 cents each. The silence in the room was electric. It wasn't about the money. It was the sheer, breathtaking pettiness. A manager whose salary could buy the entire burger chain was chasing down employees for less than $1. She had meticulously calculated the tiny, unexpensed difference on the tax or a shared side order and demanded repayment. The admin, a wonderful woman who was clearly at her breaking point, couldn't help herself. Her voice was pure sarcasm as she said, "I think I can swing that." The whole room barely held back laughter, but the underlying feeling was white-hot resentment. My anger wasn't hot. It was cold, precise, and calculated. Karen's pettiness had opened her up to a beautiful form of revenge, exposing her incompetence through the language she understood least. Efficiency and cost analysis. I knew the true cost of her actions. Our department had an average salary that, when converted to an hourly rate, was significant. The time lost on 2 full department emails, and 2 full department meeting agenda items discussing an 87-cent debt, amounted to a catastrophic waste. My internal monologue was already doing the math. She spent over $1,000 in lost productivity and salary time to recoup less than $10. I decided to lean into the absurdity. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing what Karen failed to do, managing the situation. I walked around the department, chatting quietly with my coworkers, asking them if they would mind if I paid their 87-cent debt to the boss. Everyone readily agreed, rolling their eyes and laughing at the absurdity. Near quitting time, I approached Karen's desk. She was busy pretending to read a report. I waited until she looked up. I didn't say anything about the time wasted or the budget blunder. I simply placed a crisp $10 bill on her pristine desk. "Here you go, Karen," I said, my voice calm and friendly. "This covers my debt and the debt of everyone in the department. Please keep the change." Karen looked down at the $10 bill. Her face went slack. Her attempt to show professional management by tracking every penny had been entirely undercut by one perfectly placed $10 bill. She was expecting a collection of coins or an awkward e-transfer. Instead, she had been paid off and pitted by her subordinate. I didn't wait for a reply. I just smiled, turned, and walked out. The revenge was complete. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't complained. I had used her own currency, money and managerial presence, to expose her as a greedy, ineffective manager who literally wasted the company's money trying to nickel and dime her staff. The keep the change was the final, devastating punchline. She now had to explain to her bookkeeper why she had an unexplained $10 bill and why she had to issue a refund to herself. For weeks, the $10 bill became an inside joke. It was a silent symbol of Karen's incompetence, discussed in hushed tones whenever she asked for a report. It was a beautiful public humiliation that cost me only $10. It's a powerful lesson. Never underestimate the psychological impact of public absurdity. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's career. It's about exposing their deepest flaw and making them an object of ridicule to the very people they try to control. If this story gave you a good laugh, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the most ridiculous thing a cheap boss ever asked you to do? And of course, subscribe to English Stories with Louisa for more satisfying acts of office justice.